What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Thursday edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And we are also presented by Parazzo, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Parazzo has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations, so get 15% off at Parazzo-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. I did get a nice little trim yesterday from our friends at Parazzo here in Boston. We do have a guest today, Arthur Staple, joining the show, good friend of the show, and Colby is back. It's so good to see you, honestly. Like I can't explain how different our show has felt over the past 2 weeks without you. And obviously, we owe Tyler a big thank you. We owe Carter Hutton a big thank you, and everyone who has stepped in a big thank you. But I feel like I haven't done this show in a while, and it's really, really good to see you. Seriously,
I appreciate that, and it's strange not getting up every day and doing it, and it's also strange not being glued to the TV. I did catch up on a little bit of hockey stuff last night, but I could say that it's probably the least amount I've sat in front of the television and watched the National Hockey League, and I couldn't tell you how long. So, and look, also to Tyler, Carter, everybody that has been filling in for me. I mean, those guys are on the West Coast a lot, or at least almost the West Coast in Canada. And I know Edmonton's not the West Coast, but, so they're getting up early, they're doing the show, and, everybody behind the scenes at our company, whether it's our producers or our bosses, they've all been really gracious to me. So, I appreciate it, and I'm happy to be back here. And, as I told you guys last week, it's a little bit of a touch and go situation, and I'll be here as best as I can, and as much as I possibly can. So I know that you were at BU yesterday, and you're in Boston, as you mentioned. But maybe before we do get to Arthur to talk about all of the news, which seemingly is all coming out of the Metropolitan division right now, and not just the three tri-state teams. I think there's been a lot of news around the Flyers as well. And
Pittsburgh also.
Some of the new articles coming out in Pittsburgh, and so the Metro has been, a division that is probably a lot more interesting than we thought it was going to be this year. I think that's probably a fair statement, but. What did you do yesterday at BU? Like, why don't you tell everyone? Oh, I've got Oliver here with me. He's sitting right by my feet this morning, so he wants to say hi to everybody.
People, I know our listeners missed Oliver too. I honestly missed Oliver. You know what I miss the most, Colby? I miss Sloan the most. Sloan gets on here every morning with you. Colby's soon to be 3-year-old daughter, and we always have some nice dialogue. And I haven't seen Sloan in like 2 weeks, so I think I miss Sloan the most.
We've trained Sloan to get on here and look at Johnny and say Rangers suck. But I can confirm that she's always very excited if it's either the Rangers or the Toronto Maple Leafs playing it. She can recognize both teams on TV, and she gets excited. So talk about what you did yesterday, because that video we'll start teasing that video next week. I think, and showing it out a little bit, but pretty cool experience what you got to do. I mean, I'll be honest, I was a little jealous.
Yeah, it was awesome. So Bauer, one of our sponsors,
one of our former sponsors,
that we're hoping to renew with. They sent me brand new skates, the Flylights. They sent me 2 brand new sticks, those Baron all white sticks. They sent me a tracksuit, gloves, everything to kind of just promote their products. Cole Hudson is a Bauer athlete, so Cole and I got on the ice. We went through a couple different skill challenges. One of those challenges, which I won't say the result of, was actually a bet between Cole and I that if I beat him in the accuracy challenge, he would have to come on our show the day after making his NHL debut. And if he beat me, we were going to give away a signed Cole Hudson stick. So I'll leave that for surprise. But you know what? It was a very pinch me moment. So I also went to Parazzo, their Razors barbershop in Boston after, to get a haircut and do a little shoot with them. And I was like talking to Joe, the barber in the chair. He was asking me about my job, and I was saying, like, today was one of those days where I just feel so incredibly blessed. Like 3 years ago, I was sitting at a cubicle punching numbers at the Tennis Channel, and today, like, my job was to go play hockey with Cole Hudson. like just me and him alone on the rink at Agganis Arena. I know he's a 19-year-old kid and I'm turning 30, but it was still just like a really, really cool experience. And, we had some nice on the record conversations, which I'm excited for everyone to see when the video comes out. But then even the off the record stuff was great too. Like I learned a lot just about Cole, like the person he is, about his family. Yeah. He even told me and showed me, which I won't like tell anyone, but he's like, I'm going to try this pass in a game in the next, few games or whatever. Next time I get this opportunity, I'm going to try this. And he showed me the move he's going to do. And I was like, oh shit, like that would actually be sick. Like that would, be one of those break the internet kind of plays. Right. We talked about Tynan Lawrence. We talked about Lane.
He's the kind of guy who will do it too.
Oh, he will. He will.
I mean, he plays with a certain reckless abandonment. You call it swagger. That's fair. I call it a little bit of reckless abandonment at times, but he is a fearless hockey player, fearless, which Lane plays fearless as well. I mean, that is in the gene of the Hudson boys. And Quinn honestly has that in his game as well. He's, Quinn's a good player. He's a National Hockey Leaguer, but not on the other, quite the level of the other two, but still like, I mean, it's like there was 3 Stahl brothers in the NHL. Yeah. Like now you're going to have 3 Hudson brothers in the NHL.
What I will say too, though, Cole, I find to be such an interesting, like, character. Like off the ice, he's a little bit soft spoken, maybe not as loud, but on the ice, it's like he's almost a performer, right? Like the ice is his stage, and like that's where he like shows everything. His personality is huge on the ice, right? Like he's got the flashy gear, he's got the unreal sellies, the skill he displays. It's very unique how different his like off ice persona is versus his on ice persona. You know what I mean? Like you don't see that often.
Yeah.
And I find that really cool.
Hockey guys are trained to zip it up. I mean, the Cole Hudson and Cole Iserman coffee bit that they do on social media, you could see a little bit of it. But like we've had Cole on our show before, and it certainly wasn't. He didn't show that. Like he didn't show the personality that like I know, that you got to see yesterday. So that's cool. Listen, I'm glad you got a chance to do that. I know they took good care of you guys. They gave you access to everything you could have possibly needed. Was that the most ice time you've ever had at BU? I can't imagine you touched the ice too many times in that arena when you were playing.
I played one game at Agganis. I was -2 in the first period. The goal scorers were Clayton Keller and Dante Fabro. That game,
you can live with that.
I can live with that. We lost 3-2. I think the second goal, Fabro's goal was for sure my fault. He was my point guy, and I was playing center. I got caught playing center because I was the first forward back, and then we all got fucked up in the D zone, and I didn't end up blocking the shot. So I do remember Carve actually ripping me on video for the Keller goal too. So maybe both are my fault. But yeah, a great, beautiful arena. Boston University obviously is beautiful, and I'm kind of getting distracted. Everyone's tripping my hairline. I thought I have a pretty good head of hair. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe I'm gonna start feeling insecure about my hair now. Maybe it's the forehead. My forehead sometimes looks pretty big on here.
You definitely have a big forehead, but you have great flow, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. So all right, listen, I'm glad you got to do that yesterday.
Thank you, Colby. Yeah, you helped set it up. So thank you too.
Yeah, listen, of course, I'm glad it all could have worked out. And, thanks to Cole Hudson, his agent, Sean Coffey from Cortex and others involved. Joe Pereira at BU helped us set that up as well. So thanks to all those people. And from there, Johnny, maybe we should, I don't like keeping Arthur waiting. It never feels good to me. I don't mind making some people wait, but I feel like Arthur, if you give Arthur too much time to think about what he might first say, I feel like it could get really lethal. So I feel like we should we shouldn't make him wait too much longer.
I know he's chuckling in the background too right now. But before we bring on our friend,
New York Marine had a pretty good line. He said, "It's Carv's fault that you were out there with Keller."
It's true. That's true. That's true. But before we bring on Arthur Staple, just a quick word from our sponsor, Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins, if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip before, during, and after the game. Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. And as always, with Uber Eats, we create the stats. And yesterday, Ondřej Palát in his Islanders debut pretty much tied Maxim Siplikov's production in one, or let's say 2 periods of hockey. So it's working out pretty well for the Islanders so far with the trades that they've made. No, Arthur?
Yeah, you can just declare them winners now. One game against the shell of the Rangers team. Sure, we're done. Darsh's gets the thumbs up, and Tommy Fitzgerald gets the thumbs down. It's great, and I was just kind of writing this on Twitter. Palat, when he comes out yesterday morning and says to the Islanders media, like, look, I was bad this season in Jersey. I know I need to turn it around. This is a chance to turn it around. Like, it's a guy who was picked in the 7th round 15 years ago. He ranks, I think, in the 62nd all-time in playoff goals in league history. I think he knows when it's time to get it moving and dig deep. And I understand that Devils fans are probably thinking, like, well, why the hell didn't you do that for us the last 3+ years? And fair, very fair. And it seems like that Jersey situation is a lot more fragile even than we could identify it with not just how they played the night that they traded him, losing to Winnipeg at home, but also the reactions. Like, they were stung by that one, even though everybody kind of knew that the Devils needed to move on from Palat's contract to kind of do anything and change anything. So for the Islanders, it seems like a redundancy. He seems like a JG Pageau, Anders Lee type, like a really capable guy, high character, little older on the downside of his career. But, he gave him a jolt. And it was against, basically an AHL plus team in the way the Rangers have been playing lately. But between him and Carson Soucy, it's just consistency and stability. And I think the Islanders thrive on that. They love being we all got to pull on the rope together kind of team. And they do both fit that mold. No, they're not going to wow you necessarily, but they're going to be good. They're going to be capable guys. And maybe that'll be enough for the Islanders to kind of push forward a little bit more.
And I can't overstate how important it is as a player to get a vote of confidence when you're not playing well. When you can't find your way out of, like, not performing, you start changing the color of the tape on your stick, you're changing where you eat your pregame meal. Like, you'll try a bunch of different little things, and every guy is a little bit different. And a lot of times the European guys are a little bit different than the American guys, or the Americans, and everybody kind of has some different little things that they'll go to and that they'll try. Some of them are literally culture based. Sometimes they're not. But when you have a guy like Darsh, where he has this vision of Palat at his best in Tampa, and of course he knows you're not getting the exact same player, but as you just mentioned, Arthur, like, this is a guy with a real track record. This is a guy who understands what it looks like to do things the right way and to perform at a high level. When you get a new sort of wind from an executive now that obviously has a lot of belief in what you were when you were at your best, I mean, I don't think that is something to scale over. Like, I believe that type of confidence for a player that is probably feeling like they're in quicksand in New Jersey and is constantly being talked about as the reason that you couldn't get Quinn Hughes or you couldn't clear money out to do this. Like, I don't think that that's to be overlooked. And I'm not suggesting you are, Arthur. I actually think you're bringing that point up and you're kind of talking about it in a different way. But I would not be shocked if, you get an elevated version of him for at least the rest of this season. Where it goes beyond that, I think that we'll know a little bit more. I was trying to look up his contract, and for whatever reason, it's not on he doesn't show up on cap wages on their deal. But how many years does Palat have left on his deal after this?
It's got 1 year at $6 million. And, from that standpoint, it's not a good deal. You're not going to bet on a 35-year-old middle six guy at $6 million. But I think the Islanders, they've got some decisions to make this summer with Lee and with Pageau. Even hearing from Matthew Darsh yesterday with the reporters on Long Island saying, he's willing to move that extra first-round pick they got in the Brock Nelson deal from Colorado. I'm sure that there's kind of a holdover prospect, whether it's Cole Eiserman, whether it's somebody else, that he'd be willing to trade to upgrade get a scoring winger, get somebody who's like a proper upgrade to their scoring ability, which is something they've needed this year and in years past. So, I think there is a spot for Ondřej Palát on this team next year. It's not probably where he's started playing last night on the second line. But I think, it feels like you look at the numbers. His metrics weren't great in Jersey. Jersey doesn't have good metrics. They don't defend well. Carson Soucy had the worst metrics of any Rangers defenseman on a team that also has stopped doing anything well. So you say to yourself, why would you bring these guys in? And again, I go back to that. Like you said, you're putting faith in two guys, especially in Palat, who Darsh knows and says, I think this guy can help us. And also you're putting faith in the group that's there. You're saying you guys have earned this. And it's not like you go out and got Artemi Panarin or anything like that to really like blow people away, but it is a small reward for the season the Islanders have had. And I think if that takes your confidence from here to here, just even 5 or 10%, that's, what is that? 4 points in the standings. That's home ice in the first round. And so, just a little bit of a boost to the players that you got to say, you can help us. And to the guys that you have saying, this is a reward for playing so well. I think you combine that, it could be enough for where the Islanders sit right now.
So let me just follow up here and ask you something, Jonny, and I'd like you and I'd like the chat to really weigh in on this as well. So $6 million, like I think we can all agree that's too high of a number for a player with his production. Okay. But I guess I am curious how you guys view a $6 million player now, because, you go back to 24-25, he had 15 goals. Years before that, 11 and 8, that's not enough. And then you go to his Tampa years where he had 18 goals and 15 goals and 17 goals in 21, 20, and 19. So if he can score 15 goals for you, that's 5.5% of the cap, probably less, maybe 5.2% of the cap when the cap goes up. Isn't that kind of what a middle six, a guy who could hide on your second line, but is probably a third liner? Isn't that kind of what those guys are due to start making at this point? Like, how do you guys value 15 goals? Jonny, you're muted. So how do you guys value 15 goals, or if he can get to 15 goals, Arthur, what's the number that would make you sort of comfortable that he can produce to his contract value?
I think looking strictly at the numbers, 15 to 18 goals with the cap going up is probably in the 5 to 6 million range. The part that you would prefer is that you're at the start of that run. You've got a guy who's produced that many in his 20s, right, and now he's approaching, you're buying back UFA years as he's coming upon being a UFA. That's the difference here. This is a guy who we know is on the downslope. I'm sure if you asked Ondřej Palát and said, are you the same player you were at 27? He would say, obviously not. There's a lot of mileage on him too. So I think that's the difference, where you're at the end of the rope there. But also, that means that could be bought out in the summer if things really go south.
There's one year left. Yeah.
And that, I don't really see the Islanders being an upper limit team as the cap goes up. They're just, if Lou was in charge, absolutely. He's going to go for broke every year. But I think in hiring Matthew Darsh, I think the mandate from ownership was different. I think the Islanders are going to try to settle into being a team that's obviously competitive. They've got the pieces to be competitive. And obviously the Schaefer situation really changes the dynamic there for the next couple of years. But I don't think that they're going to go out and offer, they're not going to offer Artemi Panarin $12 million a year again if he gets the July 1. They're not going to be that kind of team. So I think when you're going to be targeted like that, $6 million seems like a lot. It's too much for a team like a Tampa, like a Colorado. Can't really squeeze that in. But for the Islanders, they should be pretty comfortable fitting that in next year, depending on what they do. So I think being flexible cap wise and being flexible roster wise were the two biggest concerns for Darsh going into this season as he was evaluating everybody. And now, where they're in a situation where they should make the playoffs, they could make some noise where they've got the Calder Trophy winner on D opening everybody's eyes, and the probable Vezina winner in net being the best player on the team and the best goalie in the league. they're in a situation now where that flexibility helps them immensely because they can add these two guys and they can still add someone else. It's more a matter of where do you put the bodies now, because they do have a lot of capital G guys who they can kind of shift around because nobody's really locked into a certain role. And that's worked for them so far. It may not as we get, into first, second, third round of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys hear me, first of all, by the way?
We do now.
We do.
Yes.
Okay. I've had so many issues in this hotel.
I love it when you're muted, man.
I know you do. You both do. You guys are both my biggest supporters and haters at the same time. You're both you're like mothers to me.
We only hate on you. We only hate on you to your face, though.
Yeah.
And we support you behind your back, and we hate on you to your face.
You're
That's
like a mom.
just how
That's
we
what mothers do. But
just
what I was
remember,
trying
Johnny,
to say,
hate is not the opposite of love. Indifference is. Mm-hmm. If we didn't care, we wouldn't hate. Go ahead.
Yeah. What I was trying to say though too was that Darsh said yesterday he wanted to reward this group and add, but when you think about it, like they got that third round pick that they gave up for Susie, like they didn't lose anything. You just added two players that make your lineup quote unquote deeper and
let's just say
quote
deeper,
unquote deeper,
not necessarily better, but let's call it deeper.
Right.
And you fill some holes, right? Like Palmieri's out for the year. Romanov, I don't know his status, but I'm pretty sure he's out for the year too, right?
Or he could be back if they win around, I think.
Yeah. So, those are two veteran players that they were trying to replace, and they did for nothing. Like, I think that's, Darsh doing a pretty good job. I said yesterday's deal was a win-win for both teams.
Let's just acknowledge what Midna 423 in the chat is saying, and we'll just acknowledge it. He wants us to mention that it's only an additional 3.75 in extra cap because it offsets it with Siplikov's contract. Look, we're not ignoring that. We're just merely talking about Palat and production versus dollar value. Mm-hmm. That's all we were really doing there. We're not glazing over the delta there whatsoever. So we just, I don't want you to be frustrated in the chat for that. I'll give you something else to be frustrated about today, I promise. But that one, I have something. Not actually glazing over it. We're just we're directing it in a little bit of a different way, Johnny.
I have something, if I may. I'd love to make this a conversation, and I don't know if it's being talked about, but I feel like it should be. And we haven't had a chance to talk about it on this show yet. And I think we actually didn't even talk about it on Tri-State, Arthur. But Matt Barzal has gotten, I don't want to say punished, but held accountable a few times this year. And I'm wondering where that relationship is, because, obviously you have a new GM step in Darsh, and, Patrick Waugh's been behind the bench for a couple of years now. But first you have the alarm thing, then you have the benching, against Buffalo. It seems like there's been, I don't know, is harsh the right word? I don't know if harsh is the right word, but they're making an example of Barzal a little bit this year, and he's got 5 years left on his deal, 22 team, no trade list. What is going on this year with Barzal and the Islanders? I feel like it's not being talked about nearly enough when there's been now 2 instances where they're holding him accountable.
Yeah, it's it's thought-provoking for sure, and I'm sure Barzal could take it a couple of different ways, but I imagine the way it's been relayed to him, the alarm thing comes from the top, so that was a Darsh decision. Obviously, the in-game benching in Buffalo is a Patrick Waugh decision. That I don't think those two guys are on different pages, but I think it's a challenge to Matt's maturity. I think it's those two things, and then you've got him trying to be more of a mentor to Matthew Schaefer, being a guy now at 28, not being the little kid in the room that he's been for a lot of his time on the island, which has always been a very veteran room. And now he's one of the veterans, really, as he's in year 9 or year 10. So I think these are, and the alarm, I'm not trying to make a pun, but these are wake-up calls. These are, if you want to be a leader on this team, you have to set the example by showing up on time or early. You can't fart around and just kind of say yeah, well, no one's really cared before, and they just chirp me and whatever, and we move on. And then on the ice, you can't just say I'm, especially when Bo Horvat's out. I know he was back that game, but when, he's the most dynamic forward they have. And when he doesn't do the things that you need to do to be successful as a team, tracking back, aggressively doing these things you need to do, you're going to sit, and you're going to be held to a higher standard than if, Mark Gatcomb or Max Shabanov doesn't track back hard. So I think the way that he's responded the last 2 games has been great to see, and the way that he responded to the alarm situation, the healthy scratch, also was great to see. He took it in stride, he owned it, and I'm not saying that he didn't do these things in the past. I don't think he was asked to do these things in the past. So those are big changes, I think, for him personally, for him and his role on the team. And as long as it works out, I understand that, and I certainly reacted that way when he was scratched, saying like, I don't know if this is going to be a positive outcome for the Islanders, but I give them credit for saying, we don't care. This is what we need to have. And Darsh stood by it. Patrick Waugh stood by it. You see the uniformity from them. You probably see the uniformity in the room from Anders Lee and the rest of the veteran leaders that, yeah, we have a standard. Maybe it's a little bit different than it's been. But that's the way it's got to be together. And the way that he's played since the healthy scratch, and certainly in the last 2 games since the terrible Buffalo game, shows that, yeah, I think he's embracing the message. You want to see him get it and not screw up these things anymore. But if he gets to that place and he's also going to be a 65, 70 point guy, then I think they're on the right track. And I think they're changing the dynamic with him in terms of how he reacts to people around him and reacts in the room and reacts to the front office, where it's not go do what you do and we'll worry about the rest some other time because you're our guy. And now it's just like, no, stand up and be accountable. And I think he's doing it.
He's been great. He's been so fun to watch.
I think with all the free agents that have gone off the board early, all these teams like the Flyers and Chicago and all these teams that have been rumored, Arthur, that were like waiting to see what happened with McDavid and waiting to see what happened with Kaprizov. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Chicago, who could easily take that cap hit, didn't go out and say, you know what, let's get a really high-end player and let's insert him into our lineup. I mean, I could just see with a new general manager, Matt Barzal's days being numbered in New York. I think there will be suitors for him, and I think one of the reasons that there will be more suitors for him is because how quickly everything else dried up. And again, he wasn't signed to this contract by Matthew Darsh, right? It was a different general manager. And I could foresee that situation playing out in a manner that he ends up. Now, I'm not saying a team like the Flyers necessarily have the package to go out and get a guy like Barzal. Chicago probably does. They probably would have the assets. But I could see Barzal on the move this summer. I really could. I don't think this is a Stanley Cup team. He's been there long enough. I don't know. Like, he's not quite that franchise carrying, superstar player, but he's in that next sort of tier of all-star.
Colby will never call him elite.
I mean, listen, he's an all-star. He's an all-star player in the National Hockey League year in and year out. But you didn't hear anybody considering him for Team Canada, did you? You didn't even hear his name in consideration. He's not on that level. Right. And if Ariel is here today, she's going to be pissy with me for saying that.
No, she'll probably agree.
Maybe, I was going to say, or maybe not, because she's been pretty hard on him this year. So we'll see what happens there, Arthur. But like, I'm not saying I have information on that. I'm not even trying to make a hot take. I just think that marriage has probably started to get towards the 18th green, and that with Darsh and now you have this new, young, exciting defenseman, and they kind of need to start turning the page and look into the future. I just don't see how he's going to continue to be like a major player on this Islanders team moving forward. I just don't.
I mean, if that's the case, and it certainly could go that way, there's one trade to me that's the most obvious, which is going back home to Vancouver for Pettersson. That's probably a 1-for-1 that both sides would do if it came to that. And it certainly sounds like Vancouver is ready to move on from Pettersson, and Barzal would probably love to be back home. Yeah. So, and Vancouver could use him. Would you
make that trade, Arthur? Would you sign off on that trade?
I don't know.
Because I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't trade for Pettersson. I wouldn't give Barzal up for Pettersson. I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Okay. I just think with the Islanders, and yeah, he could come to them in the summer and say like, I'm out, I've had enough. Let's break this up and move on. Or they could say, yeah, we've had enough, let's move on. But who are they replacing him with other than in a 1-for-1 deal?
Problem.
Are they going are they trading him to Chicago? Like, even if and Chicago wouldn't do this, but straight up for Frank Nazar, like, I would do that in a heartbeat. But are you getting that to me is the Islanders saying, okay, our window is still a few years away.
That's just a younger version of Barzal.
we've got a 30-year-old goalie who's at the top of his game. We've got an 18-year-old defenseman that everybody loves that's on his entry level for another couple of years before we pay him whatever we're going to pay him, 12, 13, 14 million a year. And you've got a very old forward group and old top four on defense. So
you got a 30-year-old making 8.5 who could score 35 to 40.
Yeah, but look around him. You've got a lot of, like I said, you got a lot of guys. You don't have a lot of people that you're hanging your hat on. Then, because if you're doing that, if you're trading Barzal for futures, then you're saying we'll wait a couple of years till our young forward prospects and our, in Keishon Aitchison, Victor Eklund, Yzerman, Danny Nelson, we'll wait till those guys are mature enough to be here. We'll wait till Cal Ritchie gets a little better in a couple of years. And I don't think they're going to wait. I think these trades that they made in the last couple of days say, I understand they're short-term things and they're not bank breakers or whatever, but they understand the moment. They see that the division, the Rangers are circling back around. Columbus might be circling back around with the coaching change. Philly doesn't seem to still have their act together in a short-term way.
Or long-term.
I think they're recognizing that the Devils too might be in a bit of a reset mode. Like, you could stay in that number 2, number 3 spot in the division for a long, long time if you capitalize on what you've got going now. And I understand it's a pivot from what they had a few months ago, but trading Matthew Barzal for picks and prospects isn't part of that plan.
That's true. No, I agree. You'd probably need to go take 2 guys that are young in their NHL career, and maybe they're not destined to be Connor Bedard level, obviously, but you're right. You'd need to find someone willing. Like, I look at Nazar and I'm like, geez, he's kind of he kind of plays like Barzal. He kind of has that similar style, and he's similar, like he's a lot younger. So, like, why would a team like Chicago do that? So that makes sense. Like, your rebuttal to that makes a lot of sense. It's very logical, which is usually the way you do these things, Arthur. You're very logical in your thinking.
Let me say one thing, though, quick. Let me say one thing, like, just because we have a comment from DJ Abel Santana in the chat saying, Barzy ain't going anywhere. Stop making something out of nothing. Darsh said it best. Nikita would get benched at least once a season. But this isn't making something out of nothing. There's been 2 examples of the accountability. There's 2 somethings. And Barzal has a 22-team no-trade list. It's not like he's got a no-move, a no-trade. Like he doesn't have full protection here. Like, this could be something where the Islanders want to go in a different direction, and they have a new GM. Like, Colby made you both made good points. Like, this isn't a non-starter conversation. Like, there is a possibility of it,
Yeah.
Like, we're not sitting here saying Zach Werenski is going to want out of Columbus. He's got a full no move. Like, we're not having that. You know what I mean? Like, that's making something out of nothing. This is not.
Listen, new GM, new coach, new everything. Like, you're always susceptible when those types of things happen. It's reality. So, Johnny, I don't know if you have any more Islanders talk. I did want to talk about the other end. Like, we started with Palat. We never really talked about the New Jersey Devils. The Rangers, forget it. They're just,
Panarin's the thing to talk about right now.
For sure. And how they're handling it. I mean, I think that that is far and above more interesting than anything else. Did you see the report this morning from Sheng that he would be willing to sign an extension in San Jose? What did you make of that, Arthur?
You talk to people, still try to find out what's going on. And Panarin's agent is Paul Theophanos, who's keeps things very tight, let's say. And I've known Paul for a long, long time. And he'll be just as likely to call you back and talk for an hour as to not pick up a phone for 2 weeks. So, so it's hard to get a gauge on exactly where this work, and everybody's kind of thrown a bunch of teams out. And I feel like you put these things into 2 baskets, right? There's the rental basket and there's the extension basket. And I think it's been pretty well established. And from what I've heard too, that Panarin would prefer to just move once. So this trade, if he could make it with an extension, that would be great. But that kind of excludes all the teams that are on the, that are Stanley Cup favorites: Colorado, Dallas, Mini. Although I don't know if Mini's a real possibility. Even Tampa, Florida. I don't even know if you could put Florida in that basket of a contender, but it's a place he would go. None of them could do it with an extension. They're just too cap strapped, and Florida can't even do it without that. And then there's the extension teams, and I think then you have to kind of widen your gaze and say, all right, is it a team that if I sign for 4 years and 10 and a half, who am I going to play with? Who's going to be there in a couple of years? Are they on the rise? And so then suddenly San Jose is a team that looks pretty good in that extension basket. You can be a guy who plays with Macklin Celebrini, like Panarin's going to be a 110-point guy there for the next couple of years if he plays with Celebrini.
The puck,
maybe even 120.
Yeah. Yep. And that is, that's got a lot of appeal, I would imagine, to a guy like Panarin. So, Sheng works his ass off, and he's got good sources in San Jose. And I don't know that the Rangers are saying too much. So I fully believe it. I'd heard them kind of mentioned in that extension basket when this thing first got underway a couple weeks ago. I think LA is in there too, in that extension basket, a place he would go, could play with Quentin Byfield for the next few years, which would be the irony of all ironies that he helped Alexis Lafrreniere get an extension by being on his line, and now he'd go to the number 2 pick from that draft. So I think those are two teams. I think Washington would love to do it, and I think they would love to have him extended there to kind of, beyond the Ovechkin years. I just don't know if they have the prospects, if they have the youth that he might be looking for, the future that he might be looking for. And also they're having a shit season too. So I don't know if that's a factor. So I think you balance those teams out. I'd throw Edmonton into the rental basket too, maybe as kind of a sneaky one where they could become an NBA style fearsome all-star team if they added him somehow. So I think, when you're looking at if he really is committed to the extension piece, then I don't think there's a lot of teams.
At the chat, Arthur, just so you know, I'm laughing at New York Marine in our chat. Who do you see the chat, Arthur? Do you have it visible when you're? I'll just read it to you, Vic. Maybe you could put this on the show. New York Marine says the hamsters are turning the wheels in Johnny's head. What if Loft played with Celebrini? 100-point Loft back on the menu.
I wasn't even looking at the chat. I didn't even see
I wasn't trying to just rudely laugh while you were talking, Arthur, but I felt like that was worthy. That was
if
worthy.
One player could get 100 points out of him, it is fucking Macklin Celebrini. I would be back on the train for that.
That is the gift that will keep on giving for all time. I want Johnny to bring that up at my funeral in 30 years to talk about the last 100-point situation.
Listen,
but so whatever. That's a long way of saying I feel like you scratch him. Now we're getting close. I don't think any team that's going to acquire him is going to be like, let him sit out for a week and then possibly 2.5 more weeks. I think someone's going to get this done soon. And if we're talking the extension teams, I think San Jose's in there, and I think it would be an interesting fit. And I think the appeal for the Rangers too is those extension teams are going to offer a lot more in a trade package than the rental teams would. So I think it makes a lot of sense on both sides.
100%. And I think it was Joe Albanese who said LA doesn't have any young prospects like San Jose does. They have this one name that I keep hearing, and it's Liam Greentree, who plays out in Windsor. He was on Canada's World Junior team. I think he's a winger, though, and the Rangers do need some young centers. Like, I think that's the thing that the organization is really looking for.
20-year-old, 6'3". Yeah, he plays
first rounder. Yeah, first rounder. I don't know too much about him just from talking to like people I know who cover the Kings. Like Liam Greentree seems to be the guy that the Rangers would want in return, maybe along with some picks and stuff. But yeah, I mean, San Jose certainly has a lot more to offer, I would think, in a trade for the Rangers. But it's not like LA has quote unquote nothing. But the Rangers today, for the first time this year, Arthur, I don't know if you saw it, they're actually having an optional skate at MSG. They haven't skated at MSG all year. Maybe something is different about that. I don't know. Mike Sullivan's talking this morning. They've been at Westchester all year long. This is the first time they're doing it. Maybe the trade does happen today, tomorrow, but I would agree with you that it happens sooner or later. And I think it's definitely the right thing to sit him out, just in case of risk. Imagine Panarin played tonight and got hurt, and nobody wanted him. Like, that'd be the worst possible thing to happen. So, Colby, any other thoughts on Panarin?
No, I don't have any other thoughts, but I do think, again, based on what we were talking about earlier, these guys, all these other players signed, so it just drives the price up for a guy like Panarin. Like what you might have given Panarin 6 months ago before all these extensions got done, given up for Panarin or paid Panarin. Now it's 1.5 times the price. I mean, it's that Uber surge pricing now because it's scarce. You know, the high end talent that everybody expected to be available is definitely not available at this point. So it'll be interesting. And again, you'll see he'll get a new wind. He'll get a jolt. He'll be excited. Hopefully it's a playoff team. And I personally hope he goes to San Jose because I want to see him and Celebrini together.
Yeah,
I mean,
me too.
That would be my hockey wish list. It really would.
Me too.
Be awesome.
Colby, we did joke about Lafrreniere, but did you want to bring up what we were kind of talking about pre-show?
You know, I did hear that there are some of these sort of rebuilding teams that are on the up and up, Arthur, that have been sniffing around about Alexis Lafrreniere and teams that are, again, looking at that $7 million number and saying, you know, if we could get 20 goals for $7 million and he plays on our third line, like, all of a sudden, maybe he's a guy that is a little bit more attractive. Like everybody talks about how unmovable his contract is. And again, for somebody who has been only as big a hater as I've been because Johnny's been so insane about him.
It's my fault.
But
I haven't said one good word this year. Let's be honest.
I do look at him and think, like, I do think there would be a suitor for him, Arthur. Am I crazy to think that somebody would say, you know what? We think that number is reasonable if he can score. Again, you'd like more than 15 and really more than 20, but if he's in that range, you can stomach it. Like, do you think that it's an unmovable contract? Like, where do you sit on the Lafrreniere situation?
No, I mean, I don't think you're offering up enough to make it worth the Rangers' while. Maybe now in this post-letter environment, and maybe if you do find a trade for him, even just to get him off the books and get him out of your room, maybe then you end up keeping Braden Schneider, or you end up keeping Vincent Trocheck, because you can't completely gut your top six and expect to compete. You know, expect to do the retool, whatever word that they use. Expect to kind of turn it around in a year or two. So yeah, I think there's some appeal there. I don't know who those teams would be. Like you said, maybe it's a team that sort of sees themselves a couple of years away and they can kind of live with the mistakes or kind of build them back up confidence wise. You know, you mentioned Chicago. That would be an interesting one. You know, he's a good complementary player. He's not, I think we've discovered now that he is not a guy who's going to lead the charge necessarily. And that could change in the next few years. He's still a young guy. But I think in this program for this team, it's never going to happen like that. So if you can find a team like a Chicago, like a San Jose, that's got a dominant center, a guy who is putting the team on his back but needs a little bit more support, yeah, I could see it. I just don't see where the return for the Rangers would be worth doing it versus the gamble that he'll turn really into something way better. And if it happens and you got a second round pick and a veteran guy signed for a couple more years and isn't around, and Chicago suddenly zooms up the standings in a year or two and the Rangers are still kind of swirling the drain, that's the kind of thing that gets thrown in your face when an owner is talking to a GM. So I can understand the hesitation there, but yeah, I think there's a market. I just don't know if it's the kind of market that the Rangers want to get into.
Yeah.
I think it was Joe Albanese that just said in our chat that Elliot Friedman reported the Rangers would rather fix him than move him. But if you're moving on from Panarin, how's he getting fixed?
And possibly Trocheck.
I mean, look,
I
imagine
I understand that.
I think that's more of a
read at all.
That's a read between the lines situation of this guy's been available for a long time and we're just not getting the offers that we need. I don't think this is a big declaration of we love this guy and we're never going to trade him. I mean, he's been available in trades before and they haven't bid. So I just imagine it's more what they're seeing out there offers wise.
Johnny, there are people in this world that like fixer uppers, So,
I'm one of them.
Well,
Ask
your
Emily.
girlfriend is one of them. She likes a reclamation project, clearly.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Like I'm the fixer, or I'm the one who needs to fix, I guess. Yeah. Fixie. Yeah. Exactly.
All right, Johnny, you got anything else for Arthur? I know we kept him for a while this morning. You got any? I know you're probably
but we like doing that.
You're probably. Are you guys recording Tri-State today?
Tomorrow.
Did you guys get like a really good voicemail on Tri-State? That like came across one of my pages, or am I making that up?
No, we did. We did.
Yeah. So make sure you guys.
Some good ones.
Make sure you guys are all checking out the Tri-State show with Arthur, Johnny, and Rupper, because that show it's really entertaining. The voicemail part of the program, Johnny, I almost feel like in the summer when we don't have our live chat, we should do voicemails.
Yeah, we should. We should do that.
I don't mean to steal it from your Tri-State show, but I really like the premise of that on your guys' show. It's really probably like beyond entertaining, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, we should. That's a good idea. And like it's just the one thing that sucks about it, though. Like it's now just turning into an Islander show, because the Islanders are the
even Jersey John and Singsy are two dedicated Devils fans.
They've given up.
Their passion is gone, unfortunately, and the Ranger fans. Yeah, that's the hard part, is that when two teams fall off a cliff like those two have, everybody just says, the hell with it. I'm not going to call in.
Do we think Sheldon Keefe and or Tom Fitzgerald, do we foresee them going into 26, 27 as the two leaders of the organization?
No.
I mean, I can't imagine that with the spiral, this is going to continue with those two, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is a world where it does, because if the Devils are going to make another big move and add somebody, they're obviously, to my mind, not obviously, but it certainly would seem like they're not adding anybody for the short term, because they're a couple losses away from being down where the Rangers are. But if he's still empowered to make these moves before the deadline and kind of alter their core, then I could see him sticking around. And if he's sticking around, then I think Sheldon's sticking around for another year. So I think without, yes, injuries, everybody has injuries. They had some key ones, and it really started the slide. But I think the way that they've responded, even with those guys back in the last 3 weeks of waiting and wondering what was going to happen, I think there's a case to be made, and maybe Tom Fitzgerald makes that to ownership, that, I got it wrong. This core is just doesn't have the mental fortitude to be a contender. And then you can say, let me change it. So, I could see that happening. I don't think there's a huge appetite from ownership to move on. I think they would have done it already. They had Johnny McLean in the Ring of Honor the other night, the night that they made the Palat trade, and a lot of their old guys were back. Brendan Shanahan was there, who's a pretty obvious name that's out there right now as a guy who could come in and run a team. And I don't think that there's been any kind of move down that road, and they could certainly do it now. They could do it in a week. They could do it in a couple of months, and they haven't really done anything as the slide has continued. So, I think they have a lot of faith in Tom, and we'll see where it takes them in the summer, where they're going to do all this evaluation. And obviously if there's a change, then you think about making a coaching change as well. But we'll see. I don't think it's a slam dunk. I think it's probably better than 50-50, but it's definitely not closer to 100%.
Mm-hmm. And Arthur, just to address the chat, we were asked by Matt Mugno if you will be at the live show in New York on February 19th. You will, correct? We are doing a Morning Cuppa Hockey and Tri-State Hockey live show in New York City. For those who don't know, February 19th in New York at the Atrium in the West Village. Arthur, Rupper, Colby, Vic will all be there. So come hang out. We're going to have some guests for both shows. We don't have anyone locked in yet, but we're working on it. So should be pretty fun. You get 2 free drinks. So if you want to have a drink with us, you can also. I might steal some drink tickets and have 4. Who knows? But it should be a fun night. You could see that Emily does exist in person. She'll be there too. So there's proof. And anything else you want to say about that before we let you go, Arthur?
Arthur, are you covering the big Tel Aviv-Jerusalem game that Sunday at UBS, or are you on the beat for that one, or what?
No.
Yeah, I probably can't drink. We got a game on Sunday.
Sundays are my Hockey Night in New York podcast night. So
Okay.
I'm afraid
All
I'll
right.
have to
That's
be. I'll have to be
perfect.
reading.
Go from UBS right to the studio.
Live show.
Yeah.
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 I'll read the
First time
report.
2 teammates ever drop the gloves with each other, but while they're on the same team. While they're on the same team. So we're going to make history. Yeah. All right, Arthur. Thanks for coming on today. We really appreciate it. You're the best. And we'll be checking out Tri-State tomorrow when you guys release your newest episode. All right.
See you tomorrow.
Right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Arthur. I love him.
I know.
Awesome stuff. Yeah. That was great. It's also just like, feels good again to be back. You know, I feel like it's nice. We haven't done this in a while. I like you know what? Someone was saying like, I look exhausted. I am. Like I've been on the road for 12 out of the last 13 nights. Like it's been a long 2 weeks for me. I'm not trying to sit here and complain. Like I've done some really cool things, but I haven't slept. And like my energy this morning when we hopped on for our pre-show meeting was very low, but like since the show started, talking to you and Arthur, I feel like I'm like wide awake. I'm excited. And, you know, it's nice. It's nice to be doing this again. And obviously, hopefully next Monday we hit the ground running after a weekend of rest here. I got the UMass game Friday night, but then Saturday, Sunday, I'll be resting, catching up on sleep. And next Friday, Colby, will actually be doing a Friday show. So we did want to update the chat and our listeners on that. We will have a full week of shows next week, Monday through Friday, because Thursday night is the last slate of games before the Olympic break. So Friday, we'll talk about all the games that happen on Thursday. And then the following Monday, we won't do a show because that's when the Olympic break starts and there's no games yet. And then we'll update you guys, I guess, next week on the plan for the Olympics. But just to give a heads up about our schedule for next week. So, oh yeah, look at Marine. Wow, Johnny, actual announcement.
I've been telling you guys, Johnny has had an announcement for 3 months or 6 months or 3 years.
I don't even know when that started. Yeah, when did that start? Like, what was that about?
Drew is asking me in the chat if I'm coming to J-Town this weekend. He's asking because our Titans team plays in Johnstown this weekend. Drew, my hope is I'm gonna probably drive up on Friday and do a little game day of trip. And then I probably won't be there for Saturday. I'm gonna do my best to get there for the Friday game, but I just right now it's too hard for me to be away from my house and away from where we live here for too long of an extended period. So yes, I do hope I'll be there Friday, Drew, which I guess would be tomorrow, and maybe be able to come back again on Saturday. I'm not really sure. It's like a 3.5 hour drive from where I live. So we'll see how that is. There's the Penn State outdoor game this weekend. So we'll have our eyes on that. Penn State's been playing a little bit better. UMass has been playing a little bit better too, Johnny.
They've been playing great.
Nice little shutout streak going for Michael Harabel.
5-game heater.
So that's
big goalie battle Friday night between Northeastern.
Are they playing Providence this weekend? Who are they playing?
Northeastern on Friday is the game I'm doing.
Yeah. Providence is winning. Providence is winning some games as well. Providence is winning some games as well lately. Do we want to quickly just touch on the Toronto Maple Leafs? I saw Zach in the chat. I did other people. I mean, I know we had planned on, talking about the Maple Leafs and what they're going to do and the Panthers. Maybe we'll wait and we'll try to get Goldie to come on next week and talk about the Panthers. I
just want to address one comment if I can in the chat quickly.
Go ahead.
Before we do that.
Yeah.
Just because Zachary82 obviously is a loyal chat contributor, so I wanted to answer his question. He said, thoughts on UMass, specifically D-men, Landon Nyes and Larry Keenan. Larry Keenan I've got to watch a lot of over the last 2 years. And I've said when he's playing well and this NHL player is playing well, I compare him a lot to Keandre Miller, long reach, big body, uses his body well, has some offensive upside to his game too. But Larry Keenan has had a massive jump from freshman year to sophomore year. Played on that Spangler Cup team, Detroit Red Wings prospect. I'm a big fan of his game, and I think he's going to be a really good pro. Landon Nyes, 18, true freshman, came in actually at 17 years old, turned 18 in his first weekend. He's a draft eligible guy. He's a great skater, big, strong kid, but he's still growing into himself a little bit. I don't know what round he'll get drafted in, but I do think he will get picked. I haven't seen a lot of him because, it's his freshman year, but I'm excited to watch him on Friday night. He's a guy who I think, the UMass coaching staff is very excited about. I'm excited about him too, but still obviously needs some more time to grow in college. And Larry Keenan probably needs another year too. But those are two guys that I think, if you're a college hockey fan, they're two fun guys to watch.
I want to go on a little tangent here that you just made me think of. I'm thinking you brought up the Detroit Red Wings. Do you think Patrick Kane breaks that record tonight?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. He's tied with Mike Modano for most points amongst U.S. skaters all time. The Red Wings are home tonight against the Capitals.
For me,
the Capitals
Kane
have been
is
sliding
the best,
lately.
He's the best American of all time for me, Kaner.
Mm-hmm.
And I see someone's asking us about Reamer coming back on the show. He texted me earlier or last night actually and said, "Can I come on the show on Friday?" And I said, "No, unfortunately."
He doesn't know.
Unfortunately you can't. But he's been itching to get back on, so we'll definitely work to get him back on.
He played in Sochi, right?
He did. Yep, he played in Sochi. Okay. Definitely. So what I was gonna say is so I'm asking, do you think Kane breaks the record? That made me think of a very random tangent here. So Mike Modano obviously holds that record, or no, does not hold that record. They're tied as of right now. I was just thinking about this. Have you heard the Ice Guardians podcast at all with Brett Hull and Kelly Chase and all those guys?
It's new, right? They just started it?
Pretty new in the last month or two. It's really entertaining. I don't know if anybody's listening to that show. I don't know any of those guys, by the way. I've never met Brett Hull. I might have met Kelly Chase once when we were doing a game in St. Louis when I was working on to TV for Chicago. It's a really entertaining show. It's very sort of raw, I would say, but I've been spending large amounts of time in sitting in the hospital over the last few weeks, and so I've been just listening to things that I maybe wouldn't necessarily have an opportunity to listen to. It's really they had Basil McRae on the other day, and Basil McRae was talking about the scene from Mighty Ducks that him and Mike Modano were in.
I love that scene.
Mike Modano was definitely top 5 for me. Favorite players growing up. It was Modano, Sakic, Leclerc, and Lindros were probably my 3 favorite. When I was a kid, those were the posters that I had on my room as a kid. So you brought up Detroit. It made me think of the Modano Kane thing, and then it made me think of the Ice Guardians thing. But if you haven't checked out that show, it's really entertaining. They just have really funny. They had Garth Butcher on the other day, and again, I knew that name, but I didn't know anything about him. And they talk about the old school nature of hockey, and they bring on some of the new guys and they bring on some of the old school guys, and they talk about the fights with Probert and all these other things. And I don't know, I think it's a great show. I would love it if we could. I don't know Brett Hull or Kelly Chase well enough. We could maybe reach out to them and ask them to come on our show.
Well,
but
Pat Maroon really does. We could ask Patty.
Maybe we could ask Patty, because it's that show's really good. Jeremiah is asking, not JR Colby. I always liked Jeremy Roenick as a kid. I mean, now I absolutely love the guy. I mean, I would literally walk on glass for JR. He's been so good to me. I met JR when I was 20 years old or 21 years old, and he's treated me as well as any legend or any older hockey player I've ever met has. But just growing up, JR was not, it wasn't like that for me. He was a Blackhawk, and obviously he was a Flyer, but I was a little bit older when he was a Flyer. But anyways, hopefully Kaner breaks that record tonight. I don't know who's going to break Kane's record once he has it. I don't think it'll be Matthews. I don't, but I do hope he does. I will say, I think Kane is far and above the best American hockey player. And I don't think he's done. I still think that Kane will continue to produce, and obviously not at the same level. He's played a lot on the second power play in the last little while, Johnny, but I do look forward to that. And that'll be that'll be a feather in his cap for a career that is obviously a first ballot Hall of Fame type of career. And Lord Olbermann is saying Roenick got canceled, though. I mean, listen, JR never got canceled in my book. I don't subscribe to that type of bullshit. So JR is for me, he's a Mount Rushmore guy of a person. And Bucky Talk has been asking us, will Drury be held accountable? Buck Talk. I have been very critical of Chris Drury on this show, and I've said these problems stem from a lot of the moves that he has made. James Dolan gave us the thought recently that he's fully in Drury's corner for now. So should he be held accountable? Yes. Will he be held accountable this year? I don't think so, Johnny. Just to answer that question, because I've seen it in the chat a couple of times. I don't think that anything's going to change with Ranger management in the near term. Do you, Johnny?
Well, okay. You just talked for a while, by the way. I wanted to rewind for a second. I'll start with the Dolan thing. No, I don't think anything's going to change for a while. James Dolan made it clear he believes in Drury. He wants Drury to rebuild this thing, or I guess quote unquote retool this thing. And they waved the white flag, right? The season's over. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're going to let Chris Drury get a draft pick. Like, Chris Drury didn't pick Lafrreniere. He didn't pick Kakko. Like, his drafts have been not great. But maybe this is his.
He was working there. I mean, he was in the inner circle. I mean, let's not fully. I'm not trying
to make excuses for him. I'm just saying, like, Dolan's going to give him his chance, I guess, right? Like, Drury technically inherited this team, and yes, he's totally changed it, and you can say he's destroyed it. But to build it back up, I guess Dolan's going to let him do it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't really have. What's the I'm boring you. A rash opinion on it, I guess.
You're not boring me. I just haven't had coffee today, bud.
Yeah, you're good. But I really wanted to go back to the Kane thing with Mike Modano. You said, like, is anyone going to break it? I think Eichel is, like, kind of on pace to.
Is he?
I think. I mean, Eichel's over a point per game in his career right now. Kane is just, like, slightly above a point per game in his career. And again, like, Patrick Kane, I'm not knocking him. Like, as good as he's been in his career, like, he had 2 100+ point seasons, but Eichel's been almost just as consistent, I think, when it comes to production as Kane has. He had 2 monster years in 18-19 at 110 points, and then in 15-16 he had 106 points. But, like, other than that, he's been 60, 70, 80, 90.
He's got to have some catching up to do, though, because he didn't start at the same level that Kane did. I mean, Kane comes out and goes 72, 70, 88, 73. Yeah. Eichel is 56, 57, 64, 82.
Some injuries, too.
He's had some injuries, and he's been mostly a guy in that 60 to 70 range. Yes, he had the 94 last year. This year, he looks like he's going to hit. Would you be shocked if Eichel? Yeah, I don't know. Like, will he have another 100-point, or not another, but will he push for 100
he hasn't
this
had
year?
One yet.
Yeah,
he probably
see.
will have 100 this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 61 points in 45 games, so he's kind of right in that sweet spot, Mm-hmm. He's right in that sweet spot. Again, when you look at the consistency and the amount of years that Kane has done it, I mean, Kane's played 1,300 plus regular season games. Like, Jack's not at 700 yet, right? So how old is Jack?
Jack's
29.
He's my age, I think.
And Kaner is 37. So I'm not going to say no, Johnny, but it's going to be hard. That's what, in my opinion, separates guys like Kane. That's, to me, what makes Kane the best American of all time is the consistency and the way that he's done it. He's won Stanley Cups that he's not just been there for, he's been a massive contributor for in those Stanley Cups. He's got, massive amounts of hardware in the playoffs, in the regular season. So we'll see. I don't think you're crazy to bring Eichel's name up, but I think it's going to be a minute. It's going to be much more difficult to break Kane's record than maybe we think. That's that is what I think. So
any other topics to get into? Do you want to do the Leafs thing, or
Nah, let's leave. I just forget it. Let's let them lose a few more games, and then we'll really read their.
I mean, I've been saying it since November.
Vic better get that checkbook ready because it's looking like Vic's going to win that bet. I mean, sorry, Johnny's going to win that playoff bet.
Oh yeah,
that Leaf playoff bet. So I'm sure you wait.
Right.
Did you talk about? I'm sure you talked about Nylander, right?
Yeah, we did.
The middle finger thing.
Yeah, we did.
Why are you saying it like that? You seem like the wind is out of your
No.
sail.
No. I mean, it's been over discussed.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you want to give your thoughts on it?
I mean, listen, I thought it was stupid to do that, but I also don't see like there's no reason to get your panties in a bunch about it. Like just, like it was dumb, it was immature, but I don't think that it was like, whatever. Like they fined him and then they had to explain why they didn't find Sergachev. I don't know. Like it's just stupid. That's all.
Well, I didn't even know the Sergachev thing happened until
I'm not
Monday.
Any sleep over it. I'm not. I mean, come on. Like, don't like, again, everyone's gonna have their own opinion on it. I'm sure a lot of people think it's like super horrifying what he did. Again, I would call it stupid more than anything. I don't think you're expecting Nylander to be a leader.
That's
whatsoever. That's not who he is. Like, not every star player is a leader. We've kind of gotten away from picking the right captain, and we pretty much pick the best player now to be the captain, and it's not always the right decision. It is,
and that's honestly that's like that was my whole point with the thing though too. Like, is not every NHL player is going to be a perfect role model. Like if we had a league full of Sidney Crosbys, it'd be a boring league. Like that's what I said. Like, and everyone loves and respects Sidney Crosby. He's the nicest guy in the world. He's like the best ambassador for the sport. But you do need the bad boy. You need the guys that are immature. You need. I
don't even think he's a bad boy. He's just his give a fuck.
He just does it differently. He does it his own way.
He does it his own way. Yeah, it's just his give a fuck. I mean, listen. Do I think that wearing a tank, like he looked like a moron when he was wearing a tank top in the press box. He looked like a fucking moron. But like, again, that's who he is. That's what he wants to do. Expecting Nylander to be a leader is your first mistake if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. That guy's not going to be an off-ice leader. He's not even an on-ice leader because it's not as if he says, I'm not going to say anything, do as I do. He puts up points, but he doesn't play with the consistency that you want your leader to play with. Randy, that's why I would have left the captaincy with John Tavares. Like, I never would have made that change if I was the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, it would have been fine for Austin Matthews to be the assistant captain. It probably would have been better for him to not be the captain, to not have the C on his jersey. So again, the whole thing, like, whatever, like stupid. Yeah. Like I rolled my eyes at it. Like, almost like laughed at the stupidity of it. And then like he's got to like put out a bullshit statement. Like, he doesn't mean that. Like, that's just like, oh no, they're making me put out a statement. But like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't bother me that much either. I'm not like that thin skinned.
Also, like growing up for me, like Andrew Ference scored a goal in Montreal, flips off the crowd, and that glove is in like the Hall of Fame. Isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, isn't it a huge thing? Like, that's a great memory that Bruins fans have, is Ference doing that. Like, we've seen players do these kinds of things. Like when I was growing up, like a kid, like being a kid in New York, you'd hear nonstop chants from the crowd, like chanting asshole and doing all these things. Like,
go listen to the Ice Guardians podcast and listen to the shit that these guys used to fucking do to each other. Like, it's fine. Like, it's not, sorry, I'm sure this has been talked into the ground because it's the Toronto Maple Leafs and whatever, but
that's why it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this, I've really been off social media. I did see some of the discourse about it and people freaking out about it, and that's fine, but like, it's just whatever. Like, don't be so sensitive. Like, I'm sorry. It's definitely not a reason to lose sleep over that, Johnny. So
I will say too, just to address D. Ely quick, like Dealey said, when did the team's star player start automatically wearing the C instead of the actual leader of the team? I never understood that. Not every team does that. Like, you know, you look at Minnesota, Spurgeon's a captain. Calgary, Backlund's a captain. Even in New York, it was Jacob Trouba. Like that not every team. And Anders Lee is the captain of the Islanders. Like, you know, it's not every team doing that.
Lowry's a good one. In
Lowry's another good one.
But that team's in last place, so maybe it doesn't.
Gudis is the captain of Anaheim. You know, like it's
Gudis wears the C in Anaheim. That's right.
You didn't know that?
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I do know now that you're saying. I forgot it. I do remember seeing that because I remember writing him a message about it. You're right.
Foligno's wearing the C in Chicago. They didn't give Bedard the C.
Well, but that's more of a, you know, they're holding, you know, they're just kind of.
They didn't just give it to him right away.
Yeah, I mean,
Macklin will probably get it next year, but Macklin deserves it.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's probably more than I'm thinking about.
Couturier?
You know, so yeah, I get it. But at one point, I mean, he was like probably their best player. I mean, or one of their best few players when he got named captain. Drew. Yeah, well, but
I guess Drew was the captain. Drew was the captain.
Exactly. Yeah, but he was But he was Coots was one of their guys, you know, at that point. Like, so.
Yeah, Jordan Stahl, another one, Carolina.
Okay, you gonna do Bet365, Johnny?
Yeah. Let's do our Bet365 bet of the night. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. You must be 19 or older. We're sticking with the hot hand. The Buffalo Sabres tonight are home against the Los Angeles Kings. The Kings are now playing their third straight game on the road. They actually have won 3 games in a row, but not going to bet against the Buffalo Sabres right now. Sabres are on a 4-game heater, coming off a big win in Toronto, 7-4 win, a 5-0 shutout win against the Islanders. They're returning home after a 5-game road trip. So I think the KeyBank Center will be electric tonight as the city of Buffalo is starting to buzz around these Sabres now with the Bills out too. It's a hockey city. So riding the Sabres tonight at home against the Kings. And that's going to wrap it up for this week, Colb. Any final thoughts?
Thank you to everyone for the messages. I got a ton of messages. You know, I haven't really responded to anybody yet, but I do appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have a nice sort of fluid week next week where there's no interruptions. Can't promise that, but that's the hope. So we hope everybody has a great day. Make sure you hit the like button. We had a huge audience today. Our live audience was big today. So
because you were back,
make sure you hit that like button on the way out. So we make sure we keep this episode bumping up the ladder. Automatic downloads, audio only, comments on the YouTube stream, subscribe to the YouTube page for Daily Faceoff. You know what to do. We appreciate you. Looking forward to teasing that video next week that you shot with Cole Hudson. That'll be fun for people to see. And other than that, we hope everybody has a great long weekend. I know for most people it's not the weekend yet, but for us, the weekend starts now. So we'll see everybody Monday morning. Thank you.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Morning Cuppa Hockey here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, we've got more great hockey content every day. You can catch DFO live at noon and stick around for the sheet with Jeff Marek at 1 p.m. right here on Daily Faceoff. Until then, keep your coffee hot and your takes hotter.